Welcome back to another episode here at Airbnb Rental Empire. I appreciate you guys tuning in as always. I'm here to give you guys the information that you need to start your empire successfully. Today, what I want to talk about, which is actually a really exciting topic for me because I think it's really interesting also for you guys as the viewer, is creative ways to get into Airbnb rental arbitrage. Now, when I say creative ways, this is because it could be for a variety of reasons. It could be you don't have a lot of capital to get into the business. I would say that is probably the primary thing holding people back. You don't need a whole lot of money to get into Airbnb rental arbitrage, but obviously there are things that this business costs in terms of furnishing, security deposits, first month's rent, etc., and if you're going to make any small improvements to the property, etc. So with that being said, there is going to need to be, for some of you, a creative way to get into this business if you don't have a lot of cash. The first thing, or when I say that, it could be you don't have a lot of cash, or it could be you don't have a lot of experience, and so now you need to get a foot in the door. Let's say the owners in general are giving you a hard time. In terms of you're not getting a lot of progress in terms of people allowing you to do short-term rental arbitrage. And if that's the case, then you maybe need to get creative, which is exactly what I'm going to talk about here. So the first way to get creative, in my opinion, and the easiest way is going to be doing a profit sharing with the homeowner. Now, when you do a profit sharing with the homeowner, you're going to be able to dictate in terms of, or at least you're going to try to dictate what the profit sharing agreement is going to be with the homeowner. Now, the reason you would do this profit sharing is a couple reasons. You know, one, you don't have the capital to pay the security deposit, you don't have the capital to pay the first month's rent, or you don't have the capital to pay for the furnishings. Now, if you don't have capital for any of that, what you're going to present to the homeowner is your expertise and your ability to run this operation for them and make it profitable for them and make it also profitable for yourself. So you'll be able to get in, let's say you go to a homeowner and they're asking, whatever they're asking in terms of rent, and you tell them, let's say it's $5,000 just for simplicity. Let's say they're asking $5,000 rent. You come to them, you've done your homework, and you've come to them and you go to them and you can tell them that, look, I'm going to be able to get you most likely $6,000 or $6,500 per month or even more operating your property as a short-term rental. Whatever that profit margin may be, it may be more than that. Hopefully it's even more than that. I wouldn't take a property on with those kind of numbers, but I'm just making for example purposes here. So you're going to present to them an offer that is significantly sweeter than what it is they're going to be able to get signing a regular long-term tenant. And then what you're going to tell them that you're going to do is you're going to run the operation, you're going to communicate with the guests. Again, all this is negotiable. You can do more or less of this, but again, you're trying to get your foot in the door and get this business started. So you have to make yourself easy to work with. Don't make yourself difficult to work with because you don't have any experience or you don't have any money. So you have to make it easy. So you're going to tell them that you're going to handle all the communication. You're going to do the guest screening. You're going to handle maintenance issues. You're going to furnish the property. You can tell them, look, you'll handle the design aspect of the property. The owner will provide the furniture. You can work on that in terms of hopefully you have at least a credit card or something like that. You can buy the furniture and you can tell them that, look, you'll purchase the furniture and then you get reimbursed for that furniture prior to any profits coming out of the property. Or you could even ask them outright that they pay for the furniture and you work with them in terms of maybe they want to buy it themselves, maybe those are all the fine details that everyone's going to want to handle differently, but generally they're going to want to say, yeah, I'll furnish the property, but you have to be careful if they're going to furnish the property because they have to furnish it right. So you have to make sure that you get in there and you make sure that you're negotiating that, look, I'm going to take care of the design aspect, they're going to pay for it, and you guys are going to work on that together to make the property beautiful so that it has the opportunity to make a lot of profit for them. So that's one of the things that you're going to, present to the owner is that you're going to basically do everything for them. It's not going to be any extra work for them. Because if it becomes extra work for them, the likelihood is that they will just be able to do Airbnb without you. What do they need you for if they're already going to be doing all the work? So you want to make that as clear as possible that you're going to alleviate them of all the extra work that a short-term rental has, and they're just going to be able to sit back basically and collect a paycheck that is higher than what it is they were going to earn before. Now with that process, when you do the profit sharing, the question is how much do you profit share with them? I don't have that exact answer because again, that's going to vary and depend on the deal. I think you can negotiate that based on how much profit you see in the deal. That's going to be the main thing. A good starting point is if you're going to do property management, just property management of a property for another owner, they're typically going to pay about 20%. It can be as low as 15%. It could be as high as 25%. So let's use 20% as a baseline. So that would be for just property management in terms of handling all the aspects, the maintenance, the guest communication, and that sort of thing. So, in your case, I think what you're going to try to do is you're going to try and get hopefully they don't know exactly, there's a chance that they don't know exactly what that cost will be. And what you'll do is you're going to try to go for, let's say, a 30-70 split. I think that's a good idea. I think you can tell the owner that they're going to get 70% of the profits and you're going to take 30% and you're going to do all the work. In most cases, these owners aren't going to be that familiar with Airbnb anyways. So that's going to work for them and that's going to have a nice premium on the rent in terms of what it is that they were going to get otherwise. Now, another very creative way that you can get into the Airbnb rental arbitrage, and I see opportunity for this all the time. I have this in front of me all the time and I turn these deals down just because I don't need them. I have enough of a portfolio and I don't want to take on that workload. But this is for properties that are a little bit beat up. Now, typically these aren't going to work for Airbnb in most cases, but I come across a lot of properties, the owner or the agent messages me and say, oh yeah, I like your offer. I'm definitely interested. And then you look at the property and it's very outdated, or parts of it are outdated to where it's not going to work for my business model. Now, in those cases, if I didn't have a lot of Airbnbs, I would jump on a lot of these. And the reason is because a lot of these are relatively easy fixes in terms of making them Airbnb-able. Not all of them, but if I crunch the numbers in most of these cases, a lot of these repairs to make it worthwhile to do Airbnb, we're not talking about major things. So these are also things that are probably in your area and it's not going to be much different. So one thing that I see a lot, which to me is a deal breaker in 90% of cases, are these old oak cabinets, these old natural wood cabinets that just look like they're from the 1980s or the 1970s, and they just look terrible and they just look dated. Now, that is usually going to be a deal killer for me because I'm not interested in taking on a property when I have generally a beautiful portfolio of properties that do very well. And most of mine are modern and updated, basically all of them except for one, which has a very classical feel to it, a very rustic feel that it really goes well with that motif. But in general, I'm going for modern properties and those old natural wood cabinets just aren't going to cut it. But knowing what I know and what the cost of these things is, you can generally turn those cabinets around just by painting them. So you can either do it yourself if you're trying to cost cut, or you can get somebody from, get some cheap labor, have them sand it down, and then just paint them white and change the cabinet handles. Now you can do this very cost effectively, and you can oftentimes turn around a kitchen that is going to be a deal killer for you. You can turn it around and make it at least look presentable. Now, the same thing also in similar fashion is in the bathrooms. Oftentimes you're gonna have a very dated vanity, maybe some dated tile, but the tile is manageable, something like that. So what I did recently, and I don't have a problem doing this because it's very easy, but this is something that also oftentimes brings life to the property and makes it more presentable for your business purposes of doing Airbnb arbitrage. And that is changing the bath vanity. The bath vanities are often dated and they look terrible. You can change that. You can buy that at your local, big construction store, Home Depot, Lowe's, whatever that is. You can buy those things for $200 and you can change it out, and it comes with a sink, and half the time you can get the faucet for another $50 or whatever. So you're in for $250 and you can make that thing and give it new life. Now, for instance, I had another property that I took over, 8 months or so ago. This one bathroom was very dated, and what I did even in there was I scuffed up all the tile, and then I put a tub and tile paint over the tile, and I painted it gray to make it look a lot better. So now the tile, instead of being this old pale yellow, at least it's gray. I painted the whole bathroom white, so it's gray and white. It actually looks pretty good. Going back on that, the epoxy paint on the floor of the bathroom, of the floor of the shower, hasn't worked very well. But as a workaround for that, what I came up with was I bought these 1x1 wood outdoor deck squares, which are basically deck tiles that are made out of like teak or I don't know what they are, teak, ipe, or whatever, some sort of a hardwood. But I put those in the shower floor, so now you actually have a wood base in the shower on top of that epoxy on top of the tile that isn't working well. So that's something that you can do, so you can take on these properties that an ordinary tenant is going to turn down, and you can still, the owners of these properties, they're going to be more inclined to work with you because the property isn't showing that well and not that many people are interested in it. So they're going to come to you and say, yeah, I want to work with you. And you have to now be creative to make this property work and work for you to be able to make it profitable doing Airbnb. Going back to, as an example, that other property that I just mentioned where I put the epoxy on the tile, that property was, I'd gone over a lot of these things in another video as well, but that property had a lot of things that needed to be done for it. And I just quite frankly didn't want to take that property on unless certain things were done for me. So we put in 3 French doors in that property, and I negotiated that the owner was going to pay for it. So the owner paid like $8,000. I don't remember now exactly what the number is off the top of my head, but it was something in the neighborhood of $7,000 or $8,000 for 3 French doors, put in about 300 square feet of new flooring. And these are things that I did with my guys. I had my guys do the work, but I had the owner pay for all the materials and the labor. So in the end, I got a property that I could work with. The owner got capital improvements to the property, and now I also got an Airbnb property that I'm able to capitalize on and use profitably. So that was an example of a way where you can take on a property that doesn't quite fit the mold of what you're looking for, but if you can find easy fixes to make it presentable, then you should go for it, and you should find a way to work with that owner. I only took that property, the example that I just gave, I took that one on because the work was relatively easy for me to do. I had a lot of guys working for me at the time, so it wasn't hard for me to put a little bit of manpower on that property for a few days and get that done. That was the most work that I've ever done in terms of improvements to somebody else's property. But again, the owner paid for that, so I was kind of happy to do it. I had to spend a little bit of time overseeing it, acting as the general contractor, but it didn't cost me anything, and now I have a profitable Airbnb property. So those are a couple ways that you can be creative to get into Airbnb rental arbitrage. Now, the other thing that you can get creative with is a security deposit. This may be a hindrance for you. The security deposit, if that's going to be an issue, you can tell the owner, let's say they're asking for a $5,000 security deposit, you can tell them, look, I'll give you $2,000 up front, and then I'll pay you $500 per month, and I'll give you $7,000 security deposit over whatever period of time that takes. So you're making it more lucrative to them. They're getting a higher security deposit, but you're having less cash outlay. So all these things are ways that you can get creative with property owners. And overall, I'm going to say that the worse condition that the property is in, the more creative you're going to be able to get, and the more flexibility you're going to get from property owners that want to get the property rented and they want to get it cash flowing. So those properties that need a little bit of work, you can do a combination of these things. So you can do a profit sharing with capital improvements that the owner pays for. Let's say you have a beat up property that the owner isn't even able to find a tenant for, or isn't able to find a tenant for very quickly. They're having a little bit of an issue. You could tell them, look, I'll give you what you're asking for, or I'll give you a little bit more than what you're asking for. And here's what I think we should do. I think we should do some landscaping in the back. I think we should, put in a French door, take out whatever, this old, these old 1970s doors coming out of the kitchen, whatever it may be. These are easy fixes that go a long way in terms of bringing the property up to speed and making it presentable. So once you've brought the property and made it to, brought the property to a level that is acceptable for short-term rentals, then you spend a little bit of extra care in terms of furnishing it and the amenities you provide and how clean you provide that property for guests, and you're going to be successful in terms of renting it in most cases. So the creative ways to get into Airbnb arbitrage, they are there. Don't give up if you have no experience. Don't give up if you have no capital. These are all things that you can work around. Now, the ultimate thing that you can get into, let's say you don't have any capital, you don't have any experience, and you still want to get into it, I would say the easiest, I'm not even going to call this creative, but the easiest way to get into it is you go to homeowners and you just pitch to them, hey, I think you should Airbnb your property and I can be your property manager. You can property manage these things for 20%. You can build some experience. You can get your foot in the door, understand how the business works. And then you'll be able to, one, have that you can present to other owners and you can say, I have experience doing this. I'm currently doing this with XYZ. This is how much it makes, etc. That's going to give you the experience you need to expand. So I hope you guys enjoyed watching this video. If you did, please subscribe. And I'm going to be back soon with another video. I'm really trying to put out a lot of content here for you guys because I have a lot of stuff that has been boiling, on the business side for me, and in my head, I've been pondering a lot of these ideas and I want to present them to you guys. Thanks again for watching, and I'll be back soon.